Action SA wants a commission of inquiry into the unrest that occurred earlier this month. While the President described the unrest in two provinces as an attempted insurrection, and a number of people believed to be key suspects have been arrested, we are yet to see a link between them that would prove an orchestrated plan to destabilise the country. But Action SA says it was very clear, even before the attack started, that an insurrection was being planned. And to discuss this, I'm joined now by the party's KwaZulu-Natal chairperson, Dr Makhosi Khoza. Dr. Khoza, thank you so much for your time this evening. You know, there was a lot of anger on social media about Jacob Zuma being jailed, but there's often a lot of anger about a lot of things on social media platforms. What made you think that this time those angry words would actually lead to protests, to looting, to the level of destruction we saw?
Well, I do think that maybe some of the anger emanated from the fact that we had level 4 lockdown, and quite a number of people were already going through very difficult time, economically speaking. And obviously, when you have an environment like that, and given the kind of inequalities that we have in our society, and many people have already lost jobs because of lockdown, obviously, the arrest of President Jacob Zuma kind of ignited that. It triggered that kind of anger.
What sort of information were you getting, though? Because you've been quite emphatic that this was well planned and that the signs were very, very clear.
In fact, I would actually even share with you some of the messages that I still have, because I did share them with Power FM as well. You know, before this happened, we were told that we must stockpile food, that there will be no food, and they were even going to an extent of saying N2 and N3 will be attacked, the whole supply chain of logistics is going to be cut off. In fact, it could have even been worse, because some of these messages were even talking about water, that we must make sure that we harvest as much water as possible, because we may be without water for a very long time. So, I mean, and these messages were playing out, and most of them, they were coming directly from the ANC, KZN WhatsApp groups. So the truth is, it's very easy to trace that, because the voices are not distorted. They are very clear. They are very audible. With the kind of technology that we have here, it's quite disappointing that we haven't brought to book, we haven't been able to bring to book some of these perpetrators.
So you're saying these messages, were they then forwarded to you from ANC KwaZulu-Natal WhatsApp groups?
Yes, yes. I mean, it's everyone, you know, if you're talking about, in fact, almost every black African in KZN will have those messages. And they were very clear. And to a certain extent, I actually understand why the president characterized the unrest in KZN as an attempted insurrection. And the reason why it was so, it's because some of these messages are very explicit. They say we wanted to force the president of the Republic, Cyril Ramaphosa, out of office because he is part of the white establishment. The white supremacy establishment.
You say that you receive these messages from people on the ANC KwaZulu-Natal WhatsApp groups. Are you saying that those messages, did they originate from prominent ANC members in KwaZulu-Natal, or were they merely circulating them on their group saying, hey, check this out, I wonder who did this?
Well, from where I am sitting, I am saying, even the language they were using, they were addressing them as comrades and saying, comrades, don't burn, even saying, comrades, don't burn down. black-owned businesses, go for the white establishment. This thing is not about black people. So refrain from destroying those, but destroy anything of big brands. And they mention even Ackermans, and they mention all sorts of other people. So I am saying, if the government was really serious about getting to the root of this, with the kind of technology that we have today, we don't have to speculate. You can actually trace the voice of the person. Your voice can be your signature. You know, I mean, I have a unique voice from you, and the other person is a unique voice from the other. It's like a fingerprint.
I'm just trying to understand exactly what you're saying. Are you saying that because these messages were circulating on the WhatsApp groups for the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, the ANC and the government, therefore, should have acted quicker? Or are you saying that these messages may have been generated by the ANC at some members in the party?
The language that they were speaking, you must understand that I'm not just sucking this. I was part of the ANC for 35 years. And believe you me, I know when the government is committed to dealing with any unrest. When we went to Polokwane in 2007, the kind of army that was there, I mean, some of the armory that I saw there, I had never seen it before. So I'm saying, here you are arresting the head of state, that you were able, at that time it was President Mbeki, President Mbeki was able to dispatch that kind of army then. And now this is the head of state. This is not an ordinary citizen, by the way, that was going to be arrested. And there are these messages on social media. Obviously, the intelligence services ought to have taken these very, very seriously, because we are not talking about an ordinary citizen here. We are talking about the former commander-in-chief.
So these messages were in circulation. When you heard them, did you ask your former colleagues in the ANC whether this was being dealt with on a serious level? Did you feel that you should do something about them?
I will be very honest with you. When these messages were circulated, frankly, initially, I dismissed them. I just thought that it was just talk or whatever. I mean, there is all sorts of nonsense that goes on the social media. I mean, you and I know that.
Indeed.
But when everything that was said in these messages was executed to military precision, I then started getting worried. When I started hearing gunshots flying over my roof as I was being an interview with Newsroom Africa, I mean, I was frightened. And then the next thing, you were seeing the smoke everywhere. Everywhere there was smoke. And that's when I actually thought, my goodness, this was not just a threat. These people were actually, they are actually political. There is a political force behind this social unrest.
All right.
It's not just an ordinary unrest. And by the way, any social unrest of this magnitude is often with a political force behind it. And I don't understand how it could have escaped our intelligence services. They ought to have known that.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, do you think they dismissed it as you now say you dismissed it? Do you think they thought, oh, it's just a lot of hot air?
Well, you must understand, you are talking to me. I am not in government. I'm an ordinary citizen. And I was just thinking that it's like that. But they knew for a fact that there's going to be an arrest of the head of state, the former commander-in-chief. The former commander-in-chief obviously might have established some alliances with the intelligence, obviously, with the army. You never know. You get what I'm saying? I am saying you can't treat something like that, you know, lightly, especially if it is your profession. I'm not in the intelligence services.
Got you.
But I saw that this thing is no longer just an ordinary thing.
I want to ask you this.
When it started happening.
Yeah, I mean, I want to ask you this. When things started getting really serious, and then in this past week, where we've seen the State Security Minister and the Police Minister saying, no, you didn't give me an intelligence report. Yes, I did, contradicting each other and having a bit of a spat about whether intelligence about these impending attacks was passed on. Is that why your party is calling for a commission of inquiry? Is it because of the way the security cluster has dealt with it?
We definitely need a commission of inquiry. And there are good reasons why we are calling for that. There is another explicit video where Minister Begicele was even being told by the ordinary citizens, telling him that, Mr. Minister, you can't just say we have stolen. We were aided by the police. They were telling him in that video. And they were saying we were even looting with them. So you can't just arrest us alone. You get what I'm saying? And at no stage did Begicele even take that seriously. At no stage did he say he's going to investigate that and is going to make sure that those police officers who are implicated in the looting are arrested. He never made such a statement. So I am saying there is more than meets the eye. In other words, there has to be something much deeper. Otherwise, if you are an investor in KwaZulu-Natal or you are a business owner, how sure are you that this thing is not going to happen again? How are you going to take a decision to reinvest your money that you may have received from the insurance to rebuild your business if you are not sure whether this thing, we've really gotten to the root of this? At this stage, what we are doing, we've just made a mockery of this. By the way, we are just going for people who are really poor, like what has been happening in Sebokeng, going for poor citizens. And we are not getting the real people behind this. And the people who were talking in these videos, now that in hindsight, I'm looking at them and I'm saying these people actually knew what they were talking about. These are intelligent people, these are people who are trained in this particular field. They were even going to an extent of telling people how to improvise, in making bombs. I mean, that's not just looting of just ordinary citizens. So I'm saying we must not just brush this thing away. It's a very serious matter.
Who's behind it, do you think?
Ma'am, like you, I don't know. But I do feel that President Cyril Ramaphosa is probably finding himself in a predicament because maybe this might implicate some of his ministers, and it may even implicate some of the sitting members of the legislature, some of the sitting members of local government, some of the members of parliament, sitting members of parliament. And that is why as Action SA, we are saying we need an independent commission of inquiry. And we are in this is well informed because you must remember, when I made a claim that 85% of the ANC leadership is corrupt, everybody was on me. I was exaggerating, I was this, I was that. But the minute we had the State Capture Commission, people started seeing things. Even myself, I had to revise my own figures upwards. I said 85%. Subsequently, I had to say 95% because some of the people like Vincent Smith, I used to work with them. I didn't know that they were also on the payroll of Bosasa.
Well, of course, we do know those are all allegations coming from the State Capture Commission. I have to put that caveat in, but I do want to thank you very much for chatting to us this evening. That's Action SA KwaZulu-Natal chairperson Makhosi Khoza, and they of course want a commission of inquiry into the unrest. They say there is a lot more that need to be uncovered.